All right. Just want to thank you so much. Let me go first. My name is Ilan Cardenas Silverstein. I'm a freshman, and I was born and raised and live currently in New York City. My film is called Equal Opportunity, and it is about my city. So I think as a film major, first and foremost, I want to start off with a story. And my story is about public schools 191 and 199, which are both elementary schools located on the Upper West Side of New York City. Even though they are very close to each other, they're two very different schools. PS 199 is a mostly white school with a fairly affluent community, while 191 is a school that has been, since its history, a overwhelmingly Black and Latino school. So you can see their numbers on the screen right now. And since 1964, there have been multiple plans put together by different city administrations and city government officials to move the schools together, to merge them into one school or create some sort of plan to integrate them together to create one more diverse school. But every single time that this has occurred, the white parents, shown in this photo here, push back against the merger, saying that students would bring crime, lower their test scores, and overall ruin the school community, with a very severe undertone of race at the core of everything they're saying. This happens everywhere in New York City, though. It's not just one school, it's not just one isolated incident. Doing research for this, there were countless schools in Manhattan, the Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, wherever you may think, where we see this issue of integration occurring. We see it occurring not just recently, but for the past few decades. To go further into this, here are some stats about segregation as a whole in New York City. As you can tell from these, that there's a very, very deep-rooted segregation in New York City schools. Something that a product of New York City public schools, who was grateful to go to those schools, have seen firsthand. I went to schools where over 75% of students were Black and Latino. I went to schools where support was very minimal from the city, where we had issues with infrastructure and maintaining a strong student base. And seeing that 71% of our schools in New York City have a population where over 90% of students are non-white, it, as much as it may seem shocking to a lot of people, it was my daily life for years and years of my life. And I really wanted to make a film about that. I really wanted to show the issues that we face on a daily basis here in New York City. It's been very personal for me to make this film, and everyone involved in it has been a very deep personal figure in my life, whether my friends, my teachers. To go into a more business perspective of this, my target audience was never meant to be New Yorkers. When I talked to people, when I interviewed people, what I said to them was, this film is not made for you or for me. It's made to show people in Ohio at Cleveland State University what our life is like and what we experience, which is why my target audience is people from outside New York City. It is something that is really talked about in New York City and even less so talked about on a national level, even though it affects so many students in such an important community. I think New York City is put on this pedestal sometimes as a place where progressive beacons and liberal ideology can reign free, while we still neglect to discuss the pressing issues that face us as a city in terms of segregation, which is present in everything we do. So I wanted to make this film to really showcase this idea and give people an insight into something that is really discussed. To further understand my audience, I did create a survey and posted it in various channels around CSU. I asked them several questions, and these were the three that I thought were the most interesting. To break these down, first of all, we see there's a very wide variety of political ideologies that people on campus identify with, whether it be moderate, liberal, leftist, progressive, conservative, whatever they want to call themselves. We see there's a very wide demographic of each of them. We also see that people believe that schools are not any more segregated, or life is not any more segregated than it was in 1964. And my film, while not trying to disagree with that idea, we have definitely made perfectly good progress, is questioning how far have we really gone, is questioning, is it enough to say that we're done? Is it enough to say that this is a non-issue anymore? Because there is still so much to work through. And I wanted to, question my audience and see what the audience had to say to me during the production of this film. And then I was asked to talk about this, the idea of what can happen if I had more funding, more time, more support. I think this film is a tool for social change, and social change comes through community action. especially in a place like New York City where things are so concentrated. This film should be used as a tool to educate people in the city, to motivate people in the city, and to really give us a base to work for. I understand it's not the most profitable motive, which is why I also plan to submit this to festivals where there is potential for cash rewards. But the main goal of this film should be developing it further, getting more interviews, getting more quality footage, and then using it as a tool to spark more community activism in areas where the city needs it the most. And with that, I want to thank you all for listening. I'm incredibly proud of this project. I worked for 4 weeks on this, and I'm so proud of everything I've done. I want to thank my editor, Judith, who's here with us right now. She has worked incredibly hard on this as well, and I'm really excited to show you guys the work that we've put into this, and I really hope that you enjoy the film. So if you don't mind, I'm going to pull it up right now.
The Academy of Software Engineering is a school that specializes in computer science in New York City. It has a primarily Black and Latino student base.
Being one of maybe 15 girls in my graduating class, for on a surface level, people might think it may have been hard to get representation or like find the representation I was looking for. But my high school made it very clear that if we wanted something, or if we felt that we needed something to be a part of the community, we could just ask.
We were told by a few parents who are friends of teachers who happened to be white, who lived in the neighborhood, just this past year, that our school was too brown for them.
It struggles with lack of funding as well as lack of support for any other activities outside of computer science.
Statistically speaking, like if you look at a top school in New York City like Stuyvesant, and then you see that like less than 1% of that 3,000 student population is Black. That's, I couldn't think of something that's just a sign of blatant inequity.
I feel like there were some shortcomings, especially with the administration, like lack of funding for stuff like the yearbook or senior activities. And yeah, it was very complicated.
University Neighborhood Middle School is a school located on the Lower East Side of Manhattan in District 1. It is special for its strong number of students who are special needs. 44% of students approximately have some sort of special need and accommodation they need.
Because of the high numbers of IEP students and because of the high number of students of color that our school has, it's really hard for us to attract white students or more diverse students.
It is overwhelmingly Black and Latino. There is a strong presence of both communities at the school, though there has been an increase in white and Asian populations in the recent years. The school is very reliant on support from local community groups and grants due to the lack of funding from the city and the state.
In terms of the city, I know like a lot more of like what we had came from private donors.
I think my city did the best they could. There are definitely worse high schools out there. And the city definitely gave us as much as we can, I believe.
So I think in many ways, the racial and the academic or just the perception of our school is very different from the reality, and unfortunately it feeds into itself and it becomes a cycle.
I think that, when we're talking about those specialized schools, like there are kids who get fast-tracked into those schools because of the middle school they went to. There are kids who have access to test prep that literally, again, help people who have the resources game the system. And again, that's not for everybody, but it would be, I think, foolish of us to not look at those statistics and think, man, maybe something is a little bit skewed here.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.